Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty big news when it comes to Xbox, where it seems like right now, Xbox may have actually beaten PlayStation for one of the very first times. Now, and when it comes to typical kind of headliners or topics like that, it usually kind of has that big console war back and forth, which is kind of, well, usually bait or whatever. But it's very intriguing information nonetheless to go and kind of look into and talk about, because it talks about the fact of, well, Xbox actually might be on a huge, massive trajectory, and the future might be changing up at least a little bit, especially with all these big acquisitions going on from Xbox, and I want to go talk about that. As well as also a part 2 story, which is, to me, as a PC guy, probably one of the more entertaining things out here, where Gabe Newell, the man himself who literally made Steam, I'm sure if you guys have seen PC stuff or heard about gaming on PC, etc., you have like the Epic Games Store, which is whatever, and then also Steam, and when it comes to all this type of stuff, they actually were former Microsoft employees for like kind of looking back on, well, how they kind of thought about Xbox returning to Microsoft in the future if they ever fail. So let's go talk about this, because I think these numbers are going to be absolutely entertaining to go discuss, and of course I want to hear your thoughts and comments down below. As well, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have a bunch of our brand new How links down below. We have the Best Buy signups for their Total Tech program, which actually gives you cool deals throughout the entire holidays, or even if you guys want to do things like, I don't know, buy like a stove or whatever. And of course, as well, a bunch of really cool other different things like air purifiers and fans and all that stuff and vacuums, all that link down below. Check those on out if you guys like, hashtag ad, and of course follow the Twitter and Twitch. Let's dive on into the video itself. So this is actually a very, very nice big bump up for Xbox. Now, for some odd reason, we've had a little bit of a negative PlayStation push as of per recent, where there's been a little bit of negativity in terms of games, in terms of remakes, in terms of like even the Portal and all of that. And of course, well, there's always some sort of negativity when it comes to Xbox. It's just how it is online and people, etc. But one really big thing to note is that profitability and numbers are something we should always be on top of. And this is a very, very intriguing thing for me, where we're now seeing that Xbox is about to go and, well, beat PlayStation for the first time ever, as this report now goes and claims. So, intriguing to see this nonetheless. Now, I believe this is more in regards now to overall, like, software sales, and also in terms of acquisitions, and if you guys also want to deem the acquisitions as basically being done, yeah, if you can basically factor those numbers in. So, in a recent report published by Newzoo, it was proposed that if Microsoft had acquired Activision Blizzard sooner, then the combined forces of said companies would have actually pushed Microsoft game software revenue above Sony's. Very intriguingly, that would have technically put Xbox above PlayStation in the gaming charts for the first time in years, if not ever, in the entire time ever. Because don't forget, a lot of the times PlayStation makes most of their revenue more from software sales. So think things like God of War, Spider-Man, especially for the holiday season, or even like sometimes having a bigger preference because they have a bigger install base. So more people at this current moment have PlayStations, so you'd also have to factor in things such as, say, like Call of Duty or also Hogwarts as well, because more people bought Hogwarts Legacy on PlayStation than they did on the Xbox platforms. That's how it just was. And that's kind of a really big thing, because if they're having more consoles and they're getting more sales, that means they're overall making more revenue if it's entirely the same exact split. Let's say it's like a 50-50 split. I know it's not, just for easy numbers, between, say, Hogwarts Legacy and PlayStation, and then the same exact deal for Xbox and PlayStation, which in theory probably would be. They're both like they don't have that much leverage over each other for a big major IP such as Harry Potter. Well, that means that if there's more sales on PlayStation, they're getting a bigger cut of the revenue. That's kind of like how it is. It's just duh. It's like just a quantity over quality type stuff. But when it comes to other various things, such as, say, the Activision acquisition and Call of Duty sales or etc., Diablo sales and all of that, if you would have factored all that put together, that would have actually made at this point that Xbox would have actually won overall, which is intriguing to go and see, at least. So outside of that projection, Microsoft came in 4th place in the H1 of 2023, landing behind the ever-dominant Tencent, Sony, and then Apple, which sat in 3rd place. It was a 7th place finish for Activision Blizzard, but if the all-important acquisition had happened last year, which in theory it was ongoing, for instance, then Microsoft Gaming would be sitting in 2nd place, looming over Sony and the PlayStation brand itself. Increasingly like nuts. So in a follow-up report written by Windows Central, it was claimed that this would be the first time in history that Microsoft would outpace Sony in the gaming stakes. It would put the North American organization still some way behind China's Tencent, but let's face it, no one's gonna be that company anytime soon, which is also very true. Tencent owns so much in terms of so many different companies. It's like, I think, the underground conglomerate that I think people are waking up to as of now, but it's crazy to go and see. So Tencent is a monumental organization with a staggering number of brands and investments under its belt, boasting the ownership of some iconic labels like Riot Games, which also just had the Worlds. I did go watch that last night, and if you guys are League of Legends fans, I do stream that on Twitch every now and then. But one of my favorite games that I'm hopelessly addicted to. I did see the World's Final, so it was always fun to go and see. Had some pretty good, just good viewership. It was very nice to see. But also, that's one of the more profitable PC games. Think like Fortnite, where it has that free-to-play microtransaction base. Same with Valorant 2 as well. So it also has a massive foothold in the mobile gaming space, which is pound for pound the most valuable gaming market on the planet, accounting for than 49% of all gaming revenue. Which also wants a big thing whether you want to push for that Activision acquisitions, because they do actually have quite a few mobile games and things like Call of Duty Mobile, which are also staggering. And of course, Microsoft also wants to make its own mobile gaming store. We've heard a lot of reports and talks about that, where they basically want to go and, well, get all the revenue. Like right now, Apple and also like the Play stores do take a big cut off of in-app sales. Think like for a Twitch sub, you go basically have to pay an extra sum of money. Or think things like Fortnite, you basically have to go pay an extra sum of money to things like the Apple store. And there's been a lot of big legal cases on it. So Microsoft, number one, wants to get a cut of that, and number two, wants to go and host their own games. Think like if you had like Farmville or stuff like that, Clash of Clans, on through the Microsoft store. That means that Microsoft's getting the cut, not having to share it with Apple, etc. And that is kind of also a big play for the Activision acquisition. And that's also kind of just tied into revenues overall, because Sony doesn't really have too much of a big mobile market, and this is where another big play such as Nintendo or Xbox can expand into. So according to Newzoo's report, Tencent pulled in a whopping $15.4 billion in game revenues in H1 of 2023. Sony, alongside with PlayStation, set around $8.08 billion, and Microsoft just at over $6 billion. This also regards now to as well, if you can see the actual merger revenues. And once again, Tencent just churns money. It's a big company. Now, there is also other things for Microsoft, such as like their cloud hosting, Game Pass, the actual console revenue itself. Versus say for PlayStation, don't forget for Sony, they also have other various things such as the hardware, the PlayStation Portal, things like Sony Music, etc. And there's also extensions on things such as the like PlayStation console if they have things like, say, Crunchyroll, which they own on, say, PlayStation, and you go and basically utilize your PlayStation as a media kit. But the other stuff also factors in too. But in terms of game sales, right now, it does seem like these numbers would have actually been out Sony. So you guys can look at these for the Tencent numbers. You have Microsoft and Activision at $9 billion and also $10.4 billion over here. Sony at $8.08 billion. If you guys are looking at the revenues too, just basically work at this. You can see the comparisons of this one. So basically it's 10.4 and then also 8 billion over here, and then Apple's at 6.9, Microsoft by itself at 6. So like I said, if you did the combination, which in theory, if that is true that the Activision deal is going through, which it should, that does mean that they technically did go beat PlayStation, which is crazy to go and see. So long and short of this debate is that with Activision Blizzard and Microsoft's game revenues being compounded, it means that in basically 2023, Microsoft Gaming would have topped off at $10.4 million, and as well would have also been now PlayStation in these numbers. Now, once again, there's other various aspects on this. We'll have to go and see how the sales keep on going afterwards, how Game Pass, if they even put Game Pass on Call of Duty, etc., and how they may change things up. But it's crazy to go and see that right now, Xbox actually had a crazy year, if you factor in Activision as well. Now, to kind of wind down this too, as well, we also had a big interesting stuff from Gabe Newell. This was the guy who made Steam, which is a private company, but basically if you guys are on PC, you probably have used Steam to go buy or get games, and also on their topic to basically go and like how they quit and they made these big leaps. So Valve is currently celebrating its 25th anniversary of its iconic first-person shooter Half-Life, and as a part of this, it's releasing a lengthy documentary discussing the entire history of the project. It also happens to have a segment touching on the co-founders' departure from Microsoft. So as Gabe said, on the surface, we should have failed. And realistically, both Mike and I thought we would get back, so basically about a year afterwards, we go back to Microsoft. Realize we make a horrible mistake and go back to our friends and basically beg for our jobs back. But we did think that we knew a fair bit about software development and that that their expertise that goes into it. I think we have also had some pretty clear ideas of how to design a company right. So when they were building Half-Life, they were also designing Valve, which also means Steam too as well. So it's crazy to go and see. He's like, I wasn't really used to big companies. When I started Microsoft, it wasn't that big. It was like 1,500 people, like a big high school. 9 years later, it's significantly bigger. I think at like 230,000 folks. And he's like, yeah, it's a little bit too big. So they have a long ways to go. But they said, I'm leaving. They're going to leave in a year. They're going to make a game company and try some big reaches and see what can happen in the first place. And then they went and launched this with Gabe Newell. And they said, hey, I'm going to leave. I'm going to make a company. And he goes, I want to leave. I want to start a game company. And they both just end up chasing their dreams together, which I think is very, very inspiring to go and see at the end of the day. And I love having a chance to, well, see people kind of chase their dreams and it actually coming true. So I want to hear all your thoughts and comments down below. What do you guys think about the Xbox kind of, well, number one win? This might be the first time in a very long time, if ever. And at the same time, too, For Steam, I'm kind of excited for them. I think they've made a good product, and I think most people are pretty happy with Steam as of now, so I'm kind of curious your thoughts overall. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, checking all the how links down below. That is technically a hashtag ad and Best Buy partnership with the Best Buy Total Tech signups and all the nice little cool like fans and also vacuums and all that down below, and I appreciate y'all so much for watching. Stream on the Twitch and Twitter if you guys are bored later on tonight.